Hi there YouTube, welcome to another bolt action related video. Today I decided to take a little step back and not only do a kind of mini Grand Army update on my Paratrooper platoon, because I've actually got a second unit of Paratroopers that I never covered, but also I have a modification on my original M1340 tank, and I also have a second. So I'll go into those a little later in the video. We'll start off this little mini Grand Army update, starting with the command guys as always. Now the idea when I collected this particular platoon of infantry, not necessarily the tanks. I can't remember if I put those in these guys' platoon or not, but I don't think I did. The idea was that I wanted to add some paratroopers to my Italian army. Actually, my Italian army has actually 2 platoons already. So this is essentially a third platoon, which is a lot smaller, and basically it's more or less just these 2 infantry units, the light mortar, the sniper, a command team and a flamethrower, and possibly an observer. It's kind of just designed so that I've just got a little bit of flexibility. If I wanted to add paratroopers, I could, and they kind of developed into, well, I kind of need like 2 units of infantry and a basic command to qualify for a platoon. So I ended up getting the minimum and a little extra on top of that. So let's start with the command, as I tend to always do with these sorts of update videos, and obviously I'll try and quickly scope over the stuff that are kind of already in my 2 updates. So I'll just give you a kind of a quick look. So here we have the lieutenant of my second or my 3rd platoon, and he is basically in the not necessarily desert colours, but kind of the sort of Malta campaign type uniform. Which basically is more or less desert gear, although obviously they tend to wear shorts rather than the trousers, but then so would the normal Italian infantry too, so that you can't really get over that. But this guy obviously is not wearing his poncho, and you can see that I've given him his rank on his arm, and also above his lapel, which is another place where officers used to tend to put their ranks if they didn't have places on their shoulder. So as always, I decided to put them both on. It's not necessarily fact that they would both have both their rank on their arm and on their above their lapel pocket, but in this particular case I always kind of like to put the ranks on wherever I can, just to make the figure look a little bit more unique. So here we have the 1st lieutenant, and if we look on the bottom of the base, we have the classic Italian random name generator created name, and we can see that he's Teniente, which is obviously a lieutenant, senior lieutenant, no lieutenant, yeah, lieutenant, Teniente. Okay, so that's basically the command, and his helper is basically a submachine gun armed trooper with the rank of Marciello Ordinario, so basically just a sergeant, and obviously submachine gun armed with the Beretta. So that's the command. For higher echelon command, we have a captain, or at least he's marked up as a captain. I suppose he could always proxy as a major if I really wanted him to. I decided to go for a captain, or at least put him in captain's colours, just because I kind of already got a major in my one of my other platoons of my regular Italian army, so I kind of wanted to make it a little bit different and make him sort of, because this is kind of an overall smaller platoon. A captain would be more likely to step in if anything. And of course, again, he has a helper in the form of a Marciello Capo, which is a staff sergeant, so slightly higher ranked NCO. And you can see this particular guy is throwing a grenade, and again he's armed with the Beretta submachine gun. He's got the classic paratrooper assault vest there, and he's actually wearing a smock, as you can see. And he actually has the Italian arm insignia, which paratroopers tended to use. Okay, so that is the command, and then finally we have this general utility guy, stroke observer of some kind. He can be used for a variety of uses. He can be used for an artillery spotter, an artillery observer, or perhaps the mortar spotter. He can kind of be used for anything really. But this particular guy is obviously in paratrooper colours, but that's not to say he could be attached to another element of my army if I really needed a particular radio equipped trooper, or of course, like always, I can always just sub him in as an extra helper if I didn't want to add another radio operator. Okay, next up, let's go for the light mortar team. Again, I'm just going to run over these guys because you've seen them before in my main army update. These guys came out pretty cool. I decided to put them on the slightly bigger base. I've been doing this a lot with my sort of light mortar teams. I find that because sort of a light mortar team seem to operate very, very close to each other, putting them on separate bases doesn't always work. I mean, these guys could have theoretically got away with separate bases, but I decided to go for a team base just because A, it looks nice, and B, you can always use a dice to mark the casualties, and it's a lot easier to pick up and put down. So that is the light mortar team. Next up we'll go for the flamethrower. Not an immediate choice of mine for a flamethrower team, but this is actually a really cool looking figure. He's got his gas mask and fire hood, and also some thick fireproof gloves, and I decided to keep him in keep the flamethrower in sort of European colours, rather than them wasting time slapping on some desert paint for something that doesn't really need it. And this guy is obviously quite low on light on built kit, and overall a very nice figure. I love the way he's wearing a kind of gas mask, and he's still got his like paratrooper helmet on, and pretty cool figure. I don't actually have a flamethrower team in my Italian army, so it's always good to have the choice of one, and these guys are kind of assault orientated, so it could come in handy. And the helper here, one of the guys who's wearing the beret, the airborne beret, and he's sporting a nice fashionable moustache, and other than that he's in basic sort of basic smock and the sort of desert coloured gear, excuse me, and you can see he's wearing the actual rolled neck pullover that they tended to wear. So that's the loader and the completed flamethrower team. Next up we'll go for the sniper team. We'll start with the spotter. Again, this guy on a sort of a slightly longer sort of cavalry style base. So obviously these ones are the ones that are normally supplied by Warlord, and I decided to just for this particularly army just to use all Warlord stands, particularly for the prone figures. I mean, I think the actual base figures themselves are on MDF bases, which I tend to use. But I decided to use some of these. I tend to use them occasionally just because they have slightly more cut down profile over a sort of regular rectangular sort of cavalry base, and I think it kind of especially for like teams, I think it's quite a good idea. But of course, snipers having to sort of fit into buildings and stuff, I decided to go for this sort of smaller stand rather than putting them on a sort of more display style stand like the mortar team. And we can see the spotter here with his binoculars. Has he got binoculars? No, he doesn't. He's holding them in his other hand actually, and he's kind of shouting or whispering a target to the sniper. And he's got his beret on, which could be classed as a little silly. And he's armed with a Beretta submachine gun. And the sniper here on his, again, this style of base. And when you put them together, they still are close enough to resemble quite a good team. And like I say, with this slightly smaller profile of this style of base, you can still cram them into nooks and crannies of houses and stuff if you really want to. And we can see he's kind of just laying prone in the sort of desert sand, or sort of the rocky sand. And I haven't been able to 100% identify this rifle, but it does look very suspiciously like it could be a German rifle, because it certainly doesn't look like a Carcano. And I'm not 100% sure if they had used a different rifle for the snipers, the Italians. It certainly looks like a Kar 98. That's the sniper, and of course he has his name and his rank, so this guy is actually a corporal, and his assistant is a normal soldato. Okay, so that's the sniper team. And we'll just have a quick look at the old the flamethrower team. So the flamethrower team, the main operator is a senior private, and his helper is a normal private. There we go. So let's go on to the first infantry squad. These guys start with a sergeant. This guy is a rank of Sergeant Marciello, and this guy, like I explained in my original video on these boys, came in the sort of command pack, and I kind of swapped him over just to give one of my teams a unique sort of NCO figure. I quite like him. He's a little bit low on gear, but I do like his overall position, and I think he's pretty cool looking for an NCO figure. Next up we have the machine gun team, or the LMG team. These guys, this particular pose is the standing pose. Again, I'm not going to go into sort of all the sort of details of his light machine gun and everything, but you know, nice posed light machine gun figure. Rank of corporal, and his helper, or his loader. With this, again, I've only got one of these positioned guys, but he makes a real nice loader figure carrying like the bag of extra ammo, and he is a normal soldato, and he's obviously armed with a Beretta and this sort of standard assault vest with the packed with the Beretta magazines. And on to the infantry now. We'll bring up three at a time. We'll start with sort of the so I dubbed this guy the sort of fashionista guy. Again, it's exactly the same figure as what came in my flamethrower team. He's actually got a Carcano carbine, and just a nice figure. I'm glad I've only got two of him, because he's quite a sort of a unique looking figure, and to have too many of him would look a little sort of cloney. So I'm glad I've only got one of these guys in my infantry squad. And he is the rank of senior private. On to his other two fellows. So we have a standing Beretta posing guy here, sort of standard submachine gun gear, rank of senior private, and not much more to say about him really. And another submachine gun guy, in a kind of advancing pose, rank of Soldato, and standard sort of paratrooper gear. A kneeling submachine gunner. These guys, of course, very submachine gun heavy. Again, pretty basic paratrooper gear, and the Beretta submachine gun. And rank of Soldato. And the final two, we have an advancing submachine gunner with his Beretta again, and this time, again a sort of the standard vest. And we have the rank of senior private for this guy. And for the final guy, who is smockless and armed with a Carcano, we have this guy who's more or less, apart from his paratrooper knife and sort of lacking the sort of backpack, more or less in sort of Italian infantry sort of garb. He's got his ring necked pullover underneath his uniform jacket, and he is a Soldato Salto, and of course his paratrooper helmet with the camouflage cover. So that is the first infantry team of paratroopers, and now the second team is actually new. I completed these guys a few weeks after I did my last paratrooper update, which I believe was number 2. So we'll start with the NCO here. This guy is a unique posed NCO. I don't have anyone else in this particular position, so I really do like this guy. You can see that he's more or less in sort of basic paratrooper gear with a arm with a submachine gun. And this guy is a Martello Ordinario, which is a straight up sergeant. Next up, we'll go for the machine gun team. This is the second posed machine gunner with it deployed. And again, I utilised one of these cut profile Warlord stands for him. The only thing I'm not too keen about on these stands is that they're lipped. I always find the lips a little annoying, because I like to paint the sides of my bases either dark brown or black, and sometimes it's a little annoying to try and get the actual border of it looking nice and tidy, because it tends to, you know, not quite go over, or sort of leave a sort of a black mark where a little bit of flock doesn't go in, sort of fill in the position, and it leaves sometimes a sort of an unsightly stand. I mean, I wouldn't say this is 100% perfect by any means, but I sometimes think that the flat-sided stands have a lot neater profile. And we can see that this guy is basically laying prone with his LMG, and you know, very basic figure. Nothing super special by any means, but certainly nice to have an alternate posed guy. And for these guys, obviously, the other big problem with these Warlord stands is that you can't write on the bottom of them very, very easily. So in this case, we have a stuck down little sticky tab with his name on, and as you can see, he's actually a corporale, which is a lance corporal. And his helper, another quite unique posed figure, carrying a box of ammo this time, and armed with a Carcano carbine, and sort of rifleman's gear, and he is a senior private. So that is the machine gun team, or the LMG team rather. Next up, going into the infantry now, we have a running Carcano carbine equipped paratrooper with his combat smock, and other than that, sort of basic gear, well, basic paratrooper gear anyway, and quite a nice figure. Again, I've only got one of these guys in my entire army or entire platoon, so that's good. I like having a little bit of unique posed figures. Next up, you have this kneeling guy here. Again, I don't think I've got this guy, so he's again sort of quite unique. That's always a good thing. And we can see that he is actually a corporal majore, so an actual full corporal rather than a lance corporal. Next up, the classic posed guys, of which again, funnily enough, only the submachine gunner here is actually repeated. So this guy is actually a kind of a double figure, and he has got the rank of soldato. And then this kneeling rifle equipped guy, with the rank of a senior private, soldato salto, and he is again a kind of a unique posed figure. And then the final two guys, of which I think one of them is kind of unique. This particular guy I've only got one of, so that's good. Basic sort of trooper armed with the submachine guns, so the sort of basic gear, the grenade belt there, and a rank of soldato salto. And finally, another advancing trooper. Seeing if I've got a double of him. I haven't actually got a double of him, so again he's another sort of quite unique figure. So that's you know, overall I think that's pretty lucky really to get so many unique posed figures. And yeah, again nothing super special, just a sort of a Carcano carbine equipped regular trooper in his smock, and you can obviously his desert trousers. And of course, because he's got a rifle, he's got the rifle webbing rather than the assault vest. So that is basically all the infantry elements of this particular team. Now, not particularly attached to this team are my two M1340 tanks. Now, this was my original one, which I basically modified up because I created another. So here we have, if you go back all the way back to, I can't remember exactly which Italian Army update it was in, but you can see that I've basically added a pintle machine gun to it, which is something that I've always wanted to do, to allow this tank to better proxy as some of the other versions of it that were available, particularly the M1540, which is a machine gun armed beast. With you know, 4 machine guns and a pintle machine gun. That's a lot of dice firing at infantry. And the only other thing that I kind of modified on it was I kind of modified the squadron markings on it to make it the second tank of the squadron. And I replaced the aerials because they both snapped off. And I kind of made them a little bit thicker this time, rather than the really fine that they were before. And I mean, these things are kind of made out of melted sprue, so they're kind of brittle anyway. But hopefully, with these being a little bit thicker, they might be able to survive a knock or two before actually either breaking off or snapping halfway down, sort of thing. So I think I'm very happy with how this pintle machine gun came out. It's basically a Japanese Type 99, which I modified to resemble the Breeder 30. And you can see that I kind of basically cut the butt off, and I shortened the barrel, and kind of got rid of some of the ribbing that's on the barrel. And then used a little piece of the metal sprues that heads come on, to make a sort of a pintle mount, because if you kind of square it off, you get a nice flat based sort of triangle, which is perfect for a pintle. And then you add the machine gun to it, and I think the way this came out in the end was really cool. And I'm very happy with it. I mean, I've got a sort of a weird sort of fascination with this particular model of tank anyway. And I just think the sort of the Warlord model for it is like such a cool little model. It's easy to put together. It's pretty easy to paint, and I think it looks really cool when it's done. And that leads me on to my new M1340. Like I say, I really want to get another one, and again, I really want to try and get a third one to make a little sort of tank platoon. And you can see I've done a fair bit of extra modification on this one. I basically added a pin tool again, but I also cut the or dug out the commander's cupola to allow me to fit in this tank commander figure. Which is actually a Perry's tank commander, and I really like this guy's pose. I had to slightly modify his arm so that it kind of rested down on the open hatch, and I was very, very happy with how this guy turned out, and this whole tank in general. It's marked up as a sort of a command tank. It's got the two aerials, of course, and again a similar sort of conversion done on the pencil machine gun, although I think this particular second version came out even a little bit better than my first attempt. And like I say, this tank commander figure I really do like. He's marked up as a Teniente, and I really do like him, and he sits in the turret there, really cool. And I think overall the tank came out really well, really good. Very, very happy with it, and again, very proud of my two little M1340 tanks now. And like I say, I really am itching to get another one to make a tank platoon of the things, because for some reason I really do like these tanks. Okay, that is the end of this little mini Grand Army update. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. Comment if you wish. And I'll catch you very, very soon, because I'm just about to shoot another video with some additions to my Japanese. So, I'll catch you later.